Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're joining us around the world. You're watching Spaceflight Now's live coverage of the latest mission from Vandenberg Space Force Base. I'm Will Robinson Smith, reporter with Spaceflight Now. So good to have you with us here on a Friday morning. If you're on the West Coast, Friday early afternoon here on the East Coast in the United States. We're broadcasting, as we always do, from the Spaceflight Now News Bureau here at NASA's Kennedy Space Center. Just a little bit past the top of the hour and less than 30 minutes away from SpaceX's third and hopefully final attempt to launch the Starlink 17-12 mission. Weather has been the obstacle to getting this Falcon 9 off the pad. We'll see if today fares any better. As we're getting things going, I want to thank our photographer, John Pisani, for running the technical operations of the broadcast today. The rest of our photography team is off this mission, given this is a West Coast venture. That being said, if you're not already following our team of photographers on X, you can find them at their handles here. John is at John Pisani Photo, Adam at Eburn NYC, and Michael Kane at MD Kane Jr. Also, be sure to follow Spaceflight Now, simply at Spaceflight Now. You can find us as well on Blue Sky, Threads, and Facebook. SpaceX is currently counting down to the last opportunity within their current launch window. Looking at a departure time, if all goes well, of the Falcon 9 rocket at 9:31 a.m. Pacific, 12:31 p.m. Eastern, 16:31 UTC. Of course, with weather being the watch item today, let's now take a spin over to the GOES West satellite. Take a look at this latest weather loop. As you can see, the orbital sunrise lighten things up over the Golden State. Fairly cloudy, and we're hearing foggy as well at Vandenberg, so may not be the best viewing opportunity for this Falcon 9 rocket, but certainly a number of folks connected to the mission or missions after this are hoping this rocket can get off the ground today. Just getting a quick note in my ear that the fog is lifting at Vandenberg, so we'll see how things fare in the next 24 and a half minutes. What the viewpoint looks like from the pad level cameras. Should get those about 5 minutes before flight. Taking a look at our live chat here as we're getting rolling today. Want to thank the little more than 800 of you who are watching with us at the top of the broadcast. If you haven't already, you could do us a big favor just by clicking that like button and sharing the stream, allowing some more folks to find their way into our live launch coverage. Also want to thank our moderators in the live chat who are helping us out today. Thanks to Jeff Hansen and Rick Donner and Mark Otto for being with us this late morning on the East, early afternoon on the West. Or flip those around. Late morning on the West, early afternoon on the East. We're also powered by our wonderful channel member community here on YouTube who make these live launch opportunities possible. So big thanks to folks like Allison Stevens, Cumulus Granatus, Mike D. Let's see who else we've got in here today. Looks like our member community is still cruising on in. Jim Fowley, I see you. Thanks for being here with us. Peace Gamer, Eleva Tours, many others, of course. Channel membership comes with a number of perks. Those include discounts at our online shop, which is shop.spaceflightnow.com. Access to member-only videos here on YouTube, access to our members-only Discord server, and of course, the ability to watch all of our live launch liftoff moments from here in Florida in 4K. Also, now is a great time to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell icon so that you're notified when we do start new live streams or post new videos here to the channel. Coming up later today, we'll have an excellent launch replay from the NG-23 mission that happened on Sunday. Good 4K exhibit of all the various launch views that we had, that some of them we weren't able to show you live during the broadcast, like John's pad level view of the Falcon 9 as it made its ascent. You can actually watch the full video in slow-mo with some really high definition at a 120 frame per second rate of recording. That's up on the channel right now. If you haven't had a chance to watch that, pop over and give it a look after this launch. But you'll have all the camera views coming up again later today. Our photographer Adam Bernstein has been busily working on that. Meanwhile, back here, T minus 21 minutes, 32 seconds and counting. We've gone through a number of the fueling milestones so far for this mission, so let's go ahead and walk you through the remaining items still on the docket. Quickly step through the milestones that are already passed in the countdown timeline. The go-ahead for fueling was given around T minus 38 minutes in the count. That was followed, of course, by the start of tanking the Falcon 9 rocket at T minus 35 minutes, loading of RP-1, a rocket-grade kerosene, on board the Falcon's booster and upper stage. At the same time, liquid oxygen began flowing on board the rocket's first stage. Half an hour before liftoff, cryogenic helium began flowing into the pressure vessels on the Falcon 9's first stage. Same was true on the second stage about 5 minutes afterwards. That helium is used to pressurize the main propellant tanks during flight. At T minus 23 minutes is when RP-1 loading of the second stage wrapped up, followed by our most recent milestone that is now currently underway, which is the chill down of the felines there at the pad, beginning at T minus 20 minutes and 50 seconds. Had to be eyes on the rocket at this point in the countdown, we would be seeing that big vent happening from the strong back, as the lines are thermally conditioned prior to second stage LOX load, which is set to begin in just about 4 minutes. Moving right along, T minus 7 minutes is when the chill down of the 9 Merlin engines begins. SpaceX will flow a small amount of liquid oxygen through the plumbing and turbo pumps. That helps to protect the engines from the risk of thermal shock and damage during startup. 6 minutes before flight, the first stage kerosene tank is full. Then at T minus 4.5 minutes, we'll see the retraction of the strong back away from the Falcon 9 rocket. First, the clamp arms just beneath the payload fairings open up, and then the strong back, otherwise referred to as the transporter erector, that will recline about 13 degrees away from the Falcon 9 rocket. And here in Vandenberg, it stays in that position up to and through liftoff. 3 minutes before takeoff, the first stage liquid oxygen tank is full. Same is true on the second stage, about a minute afterwards. At that point, the Falcon 9 rocket is fully loaded with 1 million pounds of propellant. In the final 60 seconds, control of the countdown is handed over from the ground sequencer to the Falcon 9's onboard flight computers. At the same time, the propellant tanks are brought up to flight pressure. That will all be encompassed with the call out that the Falcon 9 is in startup. 45 seconds before launch, if everything is moving along as expected, both on a hardware, software, and weather side, the SpaceX launch director will give their go for launch T minus 45 seconds. The engine ignition command is issued at T minus 3 seconds. And if everything is in working order and all teams are ready to proceed, we'll see those hold down clamps release the Falcon 9 rocket for a liftoff at T0, coming up at 9:31 a.m. Pacific, 12:31 p.m. Eastern, 16:31 UTC for those of you joining around the world. Taking a quick peek at our live chat as we're just about 18 minutes remaining on the clock. Want to welcome in a new channel member, Virginia Ramirez. Also want to thank a couple folks for a couple super chats here. Thanks to channel member and moderator Jeff Hansen for a $10 super chat. Thank you, Jeff. Jeff says, go Vandy, go SpaceX, go Falcon 9, go Starlink, Godspeed 1088. 1088 is the tail number for the first stage booster that is supporting today's mission. And today if it is in fact able to launch, will be its 10th trip to space and back. Of course, that is nowhere near being among the top of SpaceX's frequent flyers club, as we're terming it. You can see the most frequently used boosters here from B1067 down to the two-way tie we have now for B1077 and 1078 at 23 flights apiece. Here's a look at the bar chart of SpaceX launches so far this year as things currently stand. The company is looking for their 118th Falcon 9 launch so far in 2025, with a good liftoff of this mission in just about 16 and a half minutes. Also want to thank Red Sky for a $2 super chat. Appreciate you, Red Sky. Thanks for supporting us today in our coverage. Coming up next week, of course, it's going to be another busy launch week, so another good reason to hit that subscribe button, as we've got a number of missions that are coming up around the corner that we will, of course, be covering in great detail. One of the biggest ones, though, is coming up on Tuesday, which is the launch of these three fellows right here. You've got NASA's IMAP spacecraft at the top of this rideshare mission from NASA. This is the Interstellar Mapping and Acceleration Probe, IMAP. That is the main spacecraft that is going to be leading the charge for these three, heading out to Lagrange point 1, a stable point from a gravity perspective, about 1 million miles away from Earth, in between the Earth and the Sun. These are three sun-studying spacecraft. Got a video up for you right now on one of those, the spacecraft on the, let's see, from this perspective, that'll be the one on the right. That is the SWIFO, otherwise referred to as the Space Weather Follow-On Lagrange 1 spacecraft from NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. On the opposite side is the Carruthers Geocorona Observatory, also from NASA, with the PI hailing from the University of Illinois up in, of course, the state of Illinois here in the U.S. Launch set for 7:23 a.m. Eastern, 11:32 UTC, and 7:32 Eastern is the set launch time right now for this mission. In fact, the photo you're looking at is a picture of them being imaged right before encapsulated into the two payload fairings you see on either side. And in the overnight hours, the spacecraft were journeyed out to the hangar at Launch Complex 39A ahead of their planned launch next week. In addition to the IMAP rideshare mission, there are also, of course, a couple of Starlinks dotted along the way, as well as on now Monday, the launch of the latest batch of satellites believed to be Starshield for the National Reconnaissance Office, what they're calling their proliferated architecture, a low Earth orbit constellation of, let's see, at least a couple hundred satellites now at this point. That's set to launch on Monday afternoon. Also on Monday, we're going to be introduced to NASA's newest class of astronaut candidates. That's coming up at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll actually be out there at the Johnson Space Center, looking forward to talking to at least one of those newest members of NASA's latest astronaut cadre. As has been tradition, the most recent astronaut class, the Flies, will have the distinction of naming this upcoming new astronaut candidate class. So unfortunately, we don't have any spoilers to share with you at this point as to what they're going to be called, but that'll be fun for everyone to learn what they will collectively be as a class, as well as learn a little bit more about who these folks are, where they hail from, as they prepare for 2 years of upcoming training to become full astronauts, start getting assigned missions. Speaking of missions, we're just about 11 minutes away from the hopeful launch of the Starlink 17-12 mission from Space Launch Complex 4 East at Vandenberg Space Force Base. Let's go ahead and take a moment to talk about where this Falcon 9 rocket will be flying. Talking a little trajectory. Of course, looking at a Google Earth satellite view of Slick 4 East, the Falcon 9 rocket, once it departs, will head due south from the launch site, as these satellites are going to be heading into a polar low Earth orbit. The first stage booster, B-1088, will target a touchdown on SpaceX's drone ship called Of Course I Still Love You. This will happen roughly 8.5 minutes after liftoff. Mentioned a little bit earlier in the broadcast, this will be the 10th flight for this particular first stage booster. A good touchdown would also be the 152nd successful landing on this particular drone ship and the 507th successful landing for SpaceX to date. The company is also interested in recovering those payload fairings currently encapsulating the Starlink satellites as well. Once back through the atmosphere, they'll make their final splashdown in the waters of the Pacific Ocean, a little bit further downrange from where the booster lands on the drone ship. And they make that soft touchdown under the support of parachutes. Once in the water, they'll be brought aboard a SpaceX recovery vessel like the one you see here on your screen, brought back into port off to Vandenberg, where they will be refurbished and turned around for future flights. Now currently T-minus 8 minutes, 40 seconds and counting. Just about a minute and a half from now is when SpaceX will flow a small amount of liquid oxygen through the plumbing and turbo pumps, helping protect the 9 Merlin 1D engines at the base of the booster from the risk of thermal shock and damage during startup. Taking a peek back through the live chat, want to thank the now 1,700 plus of you who are with us at this point in the countdown. If you're just now joining and you haven't already, you could do us a big favor just by clicking that like button, sharing the stream, allowing some more folks to find their way into this live coverage. Talking about the mission on hand specifically, there will be 24 of SpaceX's Starlink V2 mini optimized satellites deployed following a good liftoff of this rocket. This is set to be SpaceX's 84th Starlink launch of the year so far. These optimized version of the V2 minis are considerably lighter than their predecessor V2 mini satellites. With their wing Their solar panels unfurl. They have a wingspan of about 100 feet or 30 meters. They still use their argon Hall effect thrusters for in-orbit maneuvering. Built up in Redmond, Washington, which is near Seattle. These satellites will be deployed at about 174 miles or 281 kilometers in altitude at a 97-degree inclination. Just passing through that 7-minute mark again with the engine chill now underway. Coming up in less than a minute, that's when SpaceX should be done filling the RP-1 tank on the rocket's booster. We shall also be getting views of the Falcon 9 rocket coming up in just about a minute and a half from now. We'll see how much the fog has lifted by the time we actually have eyes on the vehicle. Of course, also a busy time on orbit. After the Cygnus XL spacecraft ran into some overly conservative data constraints regarding its propulsion system, the vehicle was able to successfully be berthed to the International Space Station. So here's a graphical representation of what all the visiting vehicles look like on orbit. This graphic provided by NASA to give you a sense of where everything is in relation to one another. And the bottom of this graphic represents pointing down towards the Earth. So just to give you a sense of orientation as well. Cygnus is expected to stay on board the station through the roughly March timeframe. However, to allow for the arrival of the next Soyuz spacecraft, they are planning to undock or unberth Cygnus briefly
Strong back retract.
in November. And as you just heard, we are now getting mission audio as well as visuals of the Falcon 9 rocket there at Space Launch Complex 4 East. Quite cloudy out there at Vandenberg, but thankfully not too foggy.
Strong back retract.
Really, just the Falcon 9 is obscuring itself because of the vapor coming off the rocket. Kind of hard to see, but every now and again you can get a little peek of those clamp arms that are now with a strong back pulling away from the Falcon 9 rocket. Roughly 13 degrees away from the vehicle. It'll stay in that position up to and through liftoff. Coming up at roughly T-minus 3 minutes, we should be hearing a call out that the Falcon 9's first stage liquid oxygen tank is full.
Stage 1 LOX load is complete. Go. Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
And with that call, the Falcon 9 rocket is now fully loaded with 1 million pounds of propellant. Maybe hard to see depending on the camera angle they choose, but
Ground gas closeouts.
there you go. Actually, that'll do just fine. The ground gas closeouts are the venting of the remaining liquid oxygen within the feed lines there at the pad. Coming up on the final minute ahead of the count, we'll hear a call that the Falcon 9 is entering into its automated startup sequence momentarily.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
We're now just awaiting to see if the SpaceX launch director is good to make that call that they are go for launch, coming up momentarily.
Launch director, go for launch.
And good news there. 40 seconds remaining, and we're going to go ahead and step back on our commentary, listen to the final 30 seconds along with you, and we'll be back on the other side of liftoff.
T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. And liftoff of Falcon 9. Go SpaceX, go Starlink.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.
MOD chamber pressure is nominal.
Power and telemetry nominal. Falcon is supersonic.
And a good liftoff of the Falcon 9. Now, a little more than a minute into flight, we're coming up on max Q, the point of greatest aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle.
Max Q.
There's that good call. Now progressing through that milestone, the engines will throttle back up. Should be hearing a call for MVAC chill, the thermal conditioning of the Merlin vacuum engine on the rocket's second stage.
I'm back, chill.
There's that good call out. Coming up on a few events now in fairly rapid succession. We'll see first stage main engine cutoff, or MECO, coming up at about T plus 2 minutes and 29 seconds. That'll be followed by stage separation and then the ignition of the Merlin vacuum engine. The payload fairings are set to jettison a little bit past the 3-minute mark in today's mission. Or just before the 3-minute mark.
Vico.
Stage separation confirmed.
I'm back, startup.
Good call outs, good visuals. We should be seeing the jettison of those payload fairings momentarily.
Fairing separation confirmed.
And a good separation of those payload fairings. You can see one just off the engine nozzle there. Once back through the atmosphere, they will make their final splashdown in the waters of the Pacific Ocean under the support of steerable parachutes. About 3.5 minutes into this mission now. Coming up, the next milestone we're watching out for is the start of the 3-engine entry burn, beginning at about T plus 6 minutes and 7 seconds. That burn will last a little more than 20 seconds in duration to help to slow the vehicle down quite dramatically. Tip of the cap to the graphics team at
Both vehicles
SpaceX,
are on a nominal trajectory.
and a tip as well to our photographer John Pisani for noticing that as the rocket ascends and the second stage continues to climb up through the atmosphere, the graphics curve in relation to the curve of the Earth, which is a really nice touch there. A little more than 5 minutes now to the mission. We're just about a minute away from the start of that entry burn. You're looking up through the inner stage there on the left-hand side of your screen. Still some really good views from the second stage cameras as well as they toggle back and forth to give both sides of the engine nozzle. Having good high quality views obviously is good for those of us in visual mediums like this to provide excellent vantage points of the Falcon 9 from various angles, but also good for engineers to have high definition video in addition to the data on the off
Both
chance
stages are on a nominal trajectory.
that there were to be an anomaly, or just to learn more about the performance of the Falcon 9 as they continue to make improvements.
Stage 1 FTS is saved.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
Good call outs there. Good start to the entry burn. That other call you heard regarding the FTS, that is the flight termination system. No longer needed at this stage of the mission.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
With the conclusion of the entry burn, we're now looking ahead to SpaceX starting the landing burn. That's coming up just a hair before the 8-minute mark in flight, so about a minute from now. And that will use just the single center engine on booster 1088 to slow the vehicle down for its final cushion landing on the drone ship called Of Course I Still Love You.
Stage 1 transonic.
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
1 landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And a touchdown at B1088. Little slide to the right there at the very end.
I'm back, shut down.
Nominal park orbit insertion.
And with a good parking orbit now achieved, the upper stage of the Falcon 9 will continue on in this coast phase until about T plus 53 minutes, 29 seconds. There will be a brief 1 second burn to circularize the orbit. And then the Starlink satellites are set to be deployed from the upper stage at about T plus 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 21 seconds. Well, after back-to-back scrubs, it's good to see this Falcon 9 off the pad and those Starlink satellites on their way into low Earth orbit. That, of course, frees up Slick 4 East for the other missions that have been shuffled to the right a day, awaiting their turn at the launch opportunity. Coming up next for that pad will be the planned launch of the NROL 48 mission, with an unspecified or an unannounced number of what are believed to be Star Shield satellites, also heading into low Earth orbit. That launch looking at liftoff now on Monday, the 22nd. That'll be followed on the 25th by another mission carrying Starlink satellites into LEO as well. Well, with a good liftoff and landing of that first stage booster, let's go ahead and head on over to our mission stats as they currently stand. Before we hit our mission stats, though, do want to thank a couple of folks in the live chat. If I can get my chat stream to work, it's being a little ornery at the moment. I'll go ahead and come back to that. This was the 10th flight of the Falcon 9 booster B1088. This was the 535th Falcon 9 launch to date, the 118th of the year so far. This was SpaceX's 161st orbital launch within the last 365 days, the 149th from Slick 4 East for SpaceX, and the 217th overall orbital launch as well. Here's where the bar chart now stands with 118 missions. Well, I'll say mostly in the books, since obviously they haven't deployed the satellites yet, so you can't quite claim full success on this mission until that, of course, happens. Moving on to some recovery stats. This was the 152nd good landing on the drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You. That marked the 412th drone ship landing for SpaceX and the 507th booster landing as well. Finally, with some industry stats, this was the 44th orbital launch from California, the 124th from U.S. soil, the 136th from U.S. Rocket Company, and the 215th orbital launch around the world. There have been 5 launch mishaps so far this year. Here's where the pie chart now currently stands. Also worth noting, coming up next week, we break up the launches of strictly Falcon 9 rockets, as we are also going to be tracking the launch of a ULA Atlas V rocket carrying the next batch of Amazon's Project Kuiper satellites into low Earth orbit. All right, I think I've got the chat back up and working. Want to give a big thank you to channel member Chuck Close for a very generous $25 super chat, and to Gary Mackey for a very generous $20 super chat as well. Thank you both for the support at that level. We really appreciate it. And with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up our live coverage on this mission now in the rearview mirror, Starlink 17-12. Appreciate those of you who were with us for our first live stream a couple of days ago, and thanks for being back here once again. As a reminder, all of our upcoming launches that we have on the orbital docket are on our website, spaceflightnow.com. Just click on the launch schedule tab so that you can plan your upcoming week around some of the orbital flights that are coming down the pike. Want to give a thank you to our moderators in the live chat, to Mark Otto, Rick Donner, and Jeff Hansen for helping us out today. Also, thanks to channel member Cumulus Granatus for being available to help them out by answering folks' questions in the live chat. Thanks to our photographer, John Pisani, for running the technical operations of the broadcast today. Helped in the background as well by our editor, Stephen Young. Appreciate you both. Be sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out the digital door. And until next we meet on Sunday for a live stream, I hope you all have a wonderful, relaxing, and/or productive weekend. For all of us here at Spaceflight Now, I'm Will Robinson Smith. Remember, be good to yourselves, be good to others. We will see you next time, folks. And until then, bye-bye.